Hi again, everybody, and welcome back to Introduction to Business 30. This is the Operations Management module. It's Achieving World-Class Operations Management. And this particular lesson is going to focus on the dimensions of quality. So in terms of the overview for this session that we're doing right now, what we're going to do is drill down more deeply into that competitive dimension known as quality. If you recall from the previous lesson that we had, we looked at four major competitive dimensions in operations management. We looked at cost, quality, speed of delivery, and finally flexibility or customization. So we're going to spend this session looking at the competitive dimension of quality, and what we're going to do is identify specific aspects of quality. And the key question that I want us to look at, or I want you to consider as we're going through this lesson, is what does quality mean to you? What does it mean to different people? What does it mean to organizations throughout the world? The word quality is often used when describing products or services, but as we're going to find out in this lesson, quality means different things to different people. So let's do a bit of a time travel here. Now, we're not going to get into DeLorean, we're not going to hit 88 miles an hour. Well, let's travel back in time to 1987, about 26 years ago, and we're going to look at a research article that David Garvin wrote. David Garvin is a professor at the Harvard Business School, and he wrote a paper back in 1987 called "What Does Product Quality Really Mean?" Now, I know that this is many years ago that it was written, but the principles and the items that he outlined in his research paper have really stood the test of time. It's become one of the more important or widely featured articles that's been written in this whole area of quality. And the importance of his article is that he really firmly addressed the notion of what product quality really means to different people and organizations. So, what he did in his research paper is he identified 8 specific dimensions. In other words, there's 8 specific aspects in which we can view quality. There are really 8 different parts of the whole notion of the competitive dimension of quality. Again, these represent different ways in which people, organizations view the word quality and what a quality product or service would really mean. So what we're going to do in this lesson is go through these 8 specific dimensions. I'm going to give you a definition for each one of the dimensions, and in some situations give an example of a real product or service that actually tries to compete or emphasize that specific dimension of quality. Again, 8 specific dimensions we're going to go through. The first dimension that Garvin mentioned in his article is called performance. Now, performance means basically the primary operating characteristics of a product or service. It might represent the basic key ways of identifying how good something is. For example, if you were to purchase a vehicle and you wanted a vehicle that went really fast, you might talk about the 0 to 60 time. In other words, how fast does it take, or how long does it take, for this car to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour? You might talk, if you're purchasing a computer, you might talk about its RAM, or the size of the video card that it has. Some way of being able to characterize how good something really is. Those notions of the 0 to 60 time in a car, or computer RAM, or video cards, or the gigabytes on your cell phone, those represent different aspects of looking at primary operating characteristics. Now, how does it relate to quality? Well, higher performance means better quality. So if your car has a better time in 0 to 6, in other words, if it goes much faster, it's a better car. If your computer has more RAM, it's better quality. If your cell phone has more gigabytes, it's a better cell phone. Again, better performance implies better quality. Now, what I want you to notice here is that performance is not static through time. In other words, performance doesn't stay the same. Items might break down, of course, but when you look at specific products or services, our notion of what was at one time really good performance is not the same as our notion today. Let me give you an example of that. A great example of performance not being static is computer games. Now, that's a shot from the 1970s. at one of the world's first really popular video game systems. It actually was plugged into a television. Our family never owned one of those, but actually had a friend that lived in Melfort, and he and I would play this, and believe it or not, the television that those two people are playing this game on looks an awful lot like the television that he had. So that's what stuff looked like back in the 1970s. This game was called Pong, and it basically looks like tabletop tennis. So you see those two square rectangles on either side of the television screen. Those were the rectangles for each one of the players, and that one little rectangle in the middle was a ball that was bouncing back and forth. So it was like playing tennis on a television computer game. So that's what we thought back in the 1970s was performance. That was really good. Well, fast forward to today. Here's an example of a computer game that might be featured in today's modern gaming systems. So obviously performance is a lot different today. The video, the realism definitely increases. Again, performance is not static through time. The second of Garvin's dimensions of quality was known as features. A feature is a bell or a whistle. It's a secondary characteristic. It's not the primary thing we look at, but it's something that's nice to have. It's a secondary characteristic that might be important in a specific product or service. How does it relate to quality? Well, the more bells and whistles you can have, that means you've got better quality. Now, what I want you to do for a minute is think of the bells and whistles that you would see on a vehicle. Again, it's the secondary characteristics. It's the things that, it's not maybe what you look at when you want to make the purchase decision as being a key thing to basically center your whole decision on, but it's an important thing to have nonetheless. Let me give you a minute to think about that. You might want to pause the PowerPoint presentation. But what I'm going to do is just go ahead here and show you a couple that I thought of in a vehicle. Maybe heated seats, could be a bell and a whistle. Navigation systems, could be a bell and a whistle. Not all vehicles have them, but it's a nice bell and whistle to have. Here's how Far Side would view bells and whistles. Notice a shot of the caveman from years ago. You've got one caveman saying to the other, trying to buy a club, no, no, not this one. Why not? It's got too many bells and whistles. All he wants is a club to hit an animal or hit something or hit somebody. He doesn't want all those pointy things on it. The third of Garvin's dimensions is known as reliability. Reliability is the probability of something breaking down, the probability of failure within a certain time period. So you purchase your cell phone, and maybe SaskTel or some other company says that there is a 0.1% probability that this cell phone is going to break down within the first 2 years of your contract. A lower probability means better quality. In other words, it's a more reliable product. Again, that's another way we can often look at this notion of quality. How about durability? Durability is another one of the dimensions that Garvin identified in his research paper. Durability means how long the product will last until it breaks down, goes obsolete. Now, that might sound a lot like the earlier definition we looked at with reliability, but there is a key difference. Reliability is measured in percentage terms. Durability is measured in time units. Again, durability is measured in how long something will last until it breaks down, goes obsolete, or is no longer usable. How does it relate to quality? Longer durability means better quality. So if something lasts longer, it's probably a better quality product or service. Maybe you might think of your parents or your grandparents. They may have a refrigerator that they've been using for decades. It's an incredibly durable purchase that they made. Vehicles could be durable as well. That somebody could have a vehicle for 15, 20, 25 years. Longer durability implies better quality. The fifth of Garvin's dimensions is conformance. Conformance is the ability to manufacture something that meets standards or regulations. Maybe the second bullet point might be a bit better to think of. It's basically producing stuff that's in spec. In other words, it's within the specifications that we've set. So maybe an airline, for example, has that a rule or regulation that 80% of its flights arrive within plus or minus 20 minutes of their estimated arrival time at an airport. If they're able to do that, if they have higher conformance to their standards, that would imply better quality. So that's how the notion of conformance relates to quality. Number 6 is serviceability. Again, this is another dimension that Garvin mentioned in his research paper. It's a way for us looking at what quality might represent. Serviceability would mean the ease of repair. How competent are your repair technicians? Can those individuals, those men and women, get the repair done when they said they would do it without any complications? Better serviceability means better quality. Now, I included the shot of the Maytag repairman there because years ago, Maytag ran a wonderful series of advertisements in which they had a repair technician, this man or woman, that would be incredibly lonely. And the reason they were lonely is because stuff never broke down when a customer would purchase a Maytag appliance. So what they're showing here is that they have great people able to serve products, but they're never used because the stuff never breaks down. But if you look at serviceability, better serviceability would imply better quality. Number 7 is aesthetics. Aesthetics is the appearance of a product, maybe how it smells, how it sounds, a taste of food, for example. Better aesthetics would imply better quality. This is another way people can look at what quality might mean. I showed the shot of the Toyota Venza in the PowerPoint slide because this is a vehicle that we recently purchased, and it's amazing whenever you get into a new vehicle how it smells. There's something that's captivating and alluring, the smell of a brand new vehicle. So that's maybe a great way for us looking at the notion of quality. The final dimension of quality that Garvin mentioned in his research paper is perceived quality. It's brand identification or image. It's maybe some intangibles that you really can't measure, but there's an image attached to it. Maybe fine dining in a wonderful restaurant. Maybe the food might not be much different from going somewhere else, but it's the whole atmosphere of being there. It's the service. It's the views that you have. It's the luxury of eating in a very fancy restaurant. So there's an image associated with eating in that establishment that would make you have higher perceptions of quality. So better perceived quality means higher overall quality. So those are Garvin's 8 dimensions of looking at quality. Again, performance, number 1, then features, then reliability, then durability, then conformance, then aesthetics, perceived quality, and serviceability, throw it in there. Those are the 8 competitive dimensions that we have in looking at how quality can be assessed. So for you, the vital question I want you to think of, we've gone through these 8 dimensions. Should an organization compete on all 8 of them? If an organization is trying to deliver a quality product or service and it has all of these 8 dimensions in front of it, should it compete on all 8 at once? And before you advance the slides, or before you go forward more in the presentation, maybe just think for a minute. Should an organization attempt to do that? Here's my response. That can be difficult and challenging. Competing on all 8 can be difficult because producing products that have the bells and whistles, as well as the serviceability, as well as the aesthetics, that can be challenging. The key thing that organizations ought to do, and this is sort of the decision point that I would want us to make in this class, is that you need to be good on all, but excel on some. In other words, you've got to have a minimum level of performance on all 8 of Garvin's dimensions. But you've also got to select the ones you're going to excel on. So are you going to provide exquisite aesthetics or incredible bells and whistles? Is your performance going to be really high and wonderful? Again, be good on all of them, but excel on some. So that's a discussion of Garvin's 8 dimensions of quality. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you later in Lesson 4.